Wildfires aren't just something you see on the news happening somewhere else. For so many of us, they're becoming a local reality. The fire seasons are getting longer, they're getting hotter, and they're just dangerously unpredictable. Our tools for fighting fires are, well, they're all over the place. We've got drones, sensors, satellites, but none of it really talks to each other. The data's totally scattered. You still gotta have someone try to piece it all together. And the forest itself? It's like it's not even part of the equation. And that's what led to these big questions. What if the interface we used wasn't just a screen or a map? What if it was alive? What if we could create something that actually brings humans, AI, and the forest into one cohesive system? And that right there is the spark that started PyroSense. Okay, so the journey to this big idea actually started with something really simple, almost obvious. The first question was just, how do we get more sensors out there into the forest? And they're first the smart carpet. Literally, imagine a kind of high-tech blanket that you could just roll out over the forest floor, jam-packed with sensors. On paper, it sounds great, right? It's cheap, it's easy, it's fast to deploy. Perfect. But here's the flaw, and it's a big one. Fires don't stand still. They're constantly changing shape, speed, direction. In a fixed carpet, it basically treats a living, breathing forest like it's a flat, dead surface. It completely ignores all of its natural complexity. And that realization, it forced a massive shift in thinking. The problem wasn't the sensors themselves, it was the entire approach. So phase 2 was the living swarm. We're talking thousands of small, connected robots that can crawl, climb, and link up with each other. Now, why is this a game changer? Because mobility changes everything. These little guys aren't just sensors anymore. They're shields, they're responders. They can form these huge nets to sense what's happening, or they can bunch together to form dense barriers to protect critical areas. They literally become a physical interface for the forest itself. Okay, so now we have this amazing, living, adapting swarm. But that brings up the next huge challenge. Where do humans fit into all of this? And this question is absolutely critical. I mean, you can't have a firefighter trying to joystick thousands of individual robots during a full-blown crisis, right? That kind of micromanagement would be a total nightmare. It's just impossible. And that's what led to the core principle of the solution. The answer isn't to give humans more control over every tiny detail. The answer is to give them better awareness of the big picture. This idea comes to life in an interface they call symbiotic AR. So here's how it works. First, it takes all that crazy complex data from the swarm and boils it down into simple, intuitive overlays you can see. Then, it uses that data to show you real-time predictions of what the fire might do next, and it highlights critical stuff about the terrain. What's the result? The human is empowered to make those big-picture, strategic calls, while the swarm handles all the tiny details. And that right there, that's a fundamental shift. It's about giving humans awareness without drowning them in data. As the saying goes, they become stewards, not just operators. You know, every system we build, every piece of technology we create, it shapes the future. And with that heavy thought in mind, the designers made sure accountability was baked right into the core design of PyroSense from day one. And what does that actually look like? Well, it means building this thing from the ground up with accountability in mind. The AI has to be transparent and explainable. The materials themselves have to be sustainable. But, and this is maybe the most important part, it's about people. The system is designed to prioritize local stewardship. It means integrating indigenous knowledge as a key part of the system and giving local communities a real say in how the swarm behaves. And this brings up some really tough questions, but they have to be asked. Who actually owns the data that's collected from a forest? Who gets to decide what gets saved when a fire is raging? To be truly accountable, the system was imagined with a totally open and community-focused design. And frankly, this is exactly the kind of ethical thinking that HCI needs if it's going to have any chance of helping us with these massive planetary challenges. All right, so let's put all these pieces together. We've got the living swarm, the symbiotic interface, and the accountable design. What does PyroSense actually look like when you combine all of that? Let's really try to picture the final vision here. PyroSense is this living robotic layer that's constantly sensing, shielding, and adapting. You've got these swarm units crawling and climbing, shifting from being a sensor net 1 minute to a protective shield the next. Resources are sent exactly where they're needed, intelligently, and hovering above it all, you have rangers using symbiotic AR to guide the entire system, making those life or death decisions without ever getting lost in the data. This vision tells us that our future interfaces have to be physical. They have to work with ecosystems, not just sit back and observe them. The future isn't set in stone. And so a concept like PyroSense leaves us with a really big question. What role are we going to choose? Are we going to be controllers, or are we going to be stewards of a living world?